This is Colin Murray and Friends on the biggest sports radio station in the world. This is talkSPORT.
Life has been unfaithful, and it all promises so much.
Oh, I could just play that out. Not even talk to my guests. Should we just do that? Just play like 6 Manic songs. Is he going to say anything better than 6 Manic songs in a row?
We'll find out.
We'll find out right now. Our Murray Meets guest is a sporty nutcase, which goes to show you should never stereotype sports fans. A lyricist, a bassist, and the glamour of the Manic Street Preachers. But things could have turned out very differently indeed. Please welcome to the show, Nicky Wire. Good morning, sir.
Nice to see you, Carl.
You
Good
all
to
right?
be here. Yeah, I'm fine, actually.
Yeah, we lie in this morning, just about made it.
No, I've been doing some Polish phoners, the glamorous life of rock and roll.
How does that do? Because it definitely happens with footballers. I've been there when you've been in the line, and the guy in front of you is interviewing him, and obviously English may not be the first language, so therefore the questions can be very basic. You know, I remember queuing up for one interview. Who was it with? I want to say it was Neil Lennon, but I don't think it was.
How long did you have?
But the guy in front of me, I think one of his questions was, how you make spaghetti bolognese? And I was like, what are you asking him for? He's from Northern Ireland. Very strange. You get some wacky. What was your wacky
The
question?
hardest stuff is Japan, because you have to have a translator, and they keep you on for hours. They really want to get their money's worth, and you're just on a phone to someone in a different time zone with a translator.
Oh, they generally say, where you get haircut. No, they do. I've been in Japan with George Foreman, and I witnessed about 2 hours of interviews, and they said things to him like, George, where you buy T-shirt? I'm telling you, the next question was, George, where you buy sock? I'm not,
Really?
listen, I'm not stereotyping. Go back in the archive at the Telegraph and you'll find that story.
Wow.
I think Manic Street Preachers get a better class of journalists, to be
Yeah,
honest,
I
than
think so.
footballers.
I definitely. I think that Steve Bunce is involved with. So you're 14 years old, Nicky Wire of the Manic Street Preachers, and you're not of the Manic Street Preachers, and you're captain of the Welsh national schoolboys team, offered trials at Spurs and at Arsenal. Spurs, the team you support.
Yeah.
How do you refuse that? How do you turn your back on that?
Well, one, I was really unfit. I was like the classic Tony Curry, Glenn Hoddle, number 10, just spraying the ball around, you know, hands on hips.
Have you ever heard anybody be so self-deprecating and then so self-complimentary in one sentence? Yeah, I was so unfit. I was like Glenn Hoddle.
That was great.
But I was unfit, and I saw Morrissey on Top of the Pops, and the next day I went to school with a load of daffodils coming out of my behind, and I just thought, it's Morrissey or Glenn Hoddle. That's the weird choice in my life.
Never seen it together.
No.
Just saying.
There's a long list, you know, of people that made that decision or had people make that decision for them. Pavarotti's mother overruled him for being a goalkeeper, and he would have went all the way. Apparently, he was a youth goalkeeper at, and I don't want to embarrass myself, I want to say Juventus, but I don't think it was. But it was in a Serie A team. He was the youth goalkeeper there. He said, "Mum, whatever the Italian is for mum,
Mama.
mama." And what's the Italian for? If you don't mind, I really want to play football instead of music, but you need to let me do it.
I'm only doing Japanese today.
Okay. And there's a choice, Rod Stewart. There's another one, and the best one, Julio Iglesias. What a footballer he was at Madrid. Yeah. And he chose music as well.
I just found the older I got, the worse I got. So when I was like 6 to 10 and playing with the big kids, you know, I felt really, you know, I could do anything. But then the older I got and the less fit I got and the less interested. So I could never have, you know, I think cricket I had a better chance. I fancied myself as a...
Really?
My dad was like, used to teach me how to bowl leg spinners at the age of 6 and stuff like that. So I was and for some reason I really got into Terry Alderman from that classic Ashes series. So I modelled my bowling action on Terry Alderman.
And this is a leap of faith here, but I'm wondering, there's this guy who, you know, was worshipping Alderman, who was a footballer at national level, schools level. Would you have traded all in at 14 if you had have been a brilliant rugby player? Would you have chosen rugby union over music, Nicky Wire of the Manic Street Preachers?
To score a try for Wales in rugby, or something would have been. But I was way too soft. I was like the softest kid in the class. You know, my nickname was Shirley because I always looked such like a girl. It's only because I was good at football that I got away with severe beatings. You know, it kind of carried me through my school years because I had to pick the team. So, you know, the real tough guys couldn't do anything. I always wouldn't pick them.
Yeah, and you've always had you've got a deep knowledge of the sports you like. We say sports fan, but actually, you're quite
Addiction.
nerdy about it. Yeah, what you like, you're addicted to. You've definitely got a sporting addicted personality, right? When it comes to Cardiff Blues, when it comes to Warrington, when it comes to Spurs.
My first memory, really, of my childhood, which was just brilliant, is 73 FA Cup final. Because FA Cup final day, bar Christmas Day, was the best day of the year. It was, you know, close the curtains, shandy at the age of 4, peanuts, crisps, you know, meet the wives, question of sports special. I mean, there's 2 channels showing the same thing all through the day, and it's just magic. And I remember Montgomery's double save. My dad was a big Leeds fan, and I still. And then I remember the '74 World Cup. I remember Scotland, Zaire, games like that. East Germany, West Germany. Yeah. Really sticks mine. Scotland were the only side ever in World Cup history, I think, to go out without losing a game in that tournament.
Yeah, that's how they did. They did indeed. Something tells me there's one more team, but I might be wrong. We'll have a look. I think there's one more team since. I think they were the first at the time, but again,
because they only beat Zaire 2-0 instead of 3 or 4. Like Brazil, they were the same group as Brazil and Yugoslavia.
Yeah, I've got it actually. New Zealand.
Are you right? That was recent, wasn't it?
3 draws in South Africa. Boom! Yeah. Can you just confirm it? There was no Googling going on there, guys. No. I looked Nicky Wire in the eye. I used the old grey matter. New Zealand popped in. Got a draw with Italy, I remember, in that group. I probably overextended and got that bit wrong. So we'll leave it. So we know what was Spurs.
I do remember David Harvey being voted goalkeeper of the tournament for Scotland.
You see what I mean? This is not a guy who goes, I like to go.
That's good going there.
Oh, the thing he's got going on.
The next thing you know, he's going to be able to tell us the name of that West German player that defected back to the East after the match. No. If he gets that, I'm walking out. I'm going on.
I should have done my revision last night.
I don't know it either.
What? You mean you don't know, Nicky?
No.
Wow,
Colin does.
That's embarrassing. 7 years old, Stanley, your son now. 7, yeah?
Yeah, he's coming up to 7.
So, music and sport, where does he lie and how?
It seems like music at the moment.
Yeah? Do you influence that? Do you put a guitar in his hand rather than a football at his foot?
Not at all. I'm really of the opinion as long as they're happy, I just don't care.
Yeah.
You know, I zoned in on sport from such a young age, be it cricket, football, rugby, you know, boxing. I was obsessed with boxing. You know, I've seen Steve many time in Cardiff, out with Barry Jones on the lash. Joe Calzaghe went out of school. He was 2 years younger than us.
Yeah.
In Oakdale Comprehensive.
So talk me through that. Put me in that school and talk me through who was there, who we know.
Well, it was me, James, Sean and Richey. Yeah. So we were all... Richey and Sean were a year older. Yeah. Joe was 2 years younger. And he was, I wouldn't say he was bullied, but he was a skinny young... I think he's talked to you about it, hasn't he?
He talks openly about his school years not being happy. Even though he was winning British schoolboy titles, it appears he was still getting some stick there. Yeah. One of the things, of course, is he was born in London and sort of raised in Hitchin and then sort of ended up, in South Wales. And I don't think he ever made any great inroads to play rugby or know very much about the Welsh. And I mean that nicely, Joe.
Yeah.
Is that a fair comment?
It's probably true, yeah. And, you know, I think his sister or his cousin was there as well. His sister, wasn't there? You know, so
you got on with him. I mean, you said he was bullied a little bit. There was never any time when a member of the Manic Street Preachers stole Joe Calzaghe's lunch money, because that's a headline.
No. We were complete nerds. We were going around like spraying our hair with coke to trying to look like Robert Smith or something. You know, hiding in the music room. You know, desperately trying to get a girlfriend with no success whatsoever. You know what? We can all relate to that. Well, no, actually, we can't. I think people our age certainly can relate to that school demographic and the small percentage of people who were lucky enough to get the cure early on in their lives, and the rest of us didn't. And I always think back, there was a guy called Connor who went to my school, and he used to have a bag, and he would tip X onto it. Yeah. The cure and stuff, and we were all like, you're weird. And then fast forward to when I hit 14, 15, and I'm like going over to him and going, you must lend me every record that you have. You're always those kids who were right. But it's so good to have sport and music together. You know, it is a weird mix, but I don't think I could have done one without the other. It's such a beautiful distraction when all the pressure and music and everything, that you can just, you know, go to a match or switch on the telly and watch something, and it just... I don't think I could have survived without it.
Or vice versa.
Nicky, you're not going to tell us you're in a choir, one of those big...
James was in the choir.
Yeah, James
Oh,
was.
okay.
He was
James
an excellent singer. Sean was in the brass band. Sean got a grade 8 on trumpet. He was a
Yes.
musical prodigy. So yeah,
You had nice hair, so that was all.
I had the hair and cheekbones, yeah, and the height. You know, I was surrounded by midgets.
Nicky Wire for the Manic Street Preachers is today's Murray Meets and Talk Sport. So much more to talk about after.
Talk Sport. On air, online and on TV at Virgin Media Channel 927.
And it's Guest City this morning in Talk Sport. It wasn't meant to be. Card Frotch was meant to come on for 2 or 3 minutes. Easy does it. How you doing? How's the training going? Are you eating the right food? He went a little bit crazy. George Groves heard it. He wasn't happy. He'll be here at 11:45 to answer back. Oh, I love the hype of a boxing match. Nicky Wire from the Manic Street
Right.
Preachers.
Do you think, Steve, that Joe Frotch, Joe at his peak?
Oh yeah, Joe, listen, I still upset Frotch by telling him that. Even at his peak, even at Carl's peak, he still loses to Joe at Joe's peak.
Yeah.
Joe
Yeah.
was a freak of nature.
He really was.
You know, he was a freak of nature. You know, he's never done a warm down in his life. He's never done a warm down in his life. He's never had a shower after a training session in his life, and he's never ever to this day even eaten one second, 1 ounce, one mouthful of any kind of dietary supplement or nutritional drink. I am telling you, not one.
Do you know what I'll
Not
put,
one.
Do you know what I'll put into that bracket as well?
Go on.
Daley Thompson. Even now, you go around his house. He's like, I remember he was out for a meal not long ago, about 6 months ago, when there's water for the table, and he's like, no, Sprite. I thought they were going to bring over a big jug of this stuff. He always gets soft drinks. Right, today's Murray Meets is Nicky Wire from the Manic Street Preachers. We were talking about your early days and how you were sort of very, very unfit footballer, like Glenn Hoddle, his own words. Good at cricket as well. It's rugby though that's a huge passion for you, and you've been on talkSPORT before. You talked about you love a Cardiff Blues and etc. etc.
No, Dragons James is the Blues. I'm a new pop guy.
Yeah, sorry, you're a new pipe. That's a terrible mishap for me. I want to talk about Welsh rugby players because until I actually went and worked on a home game at Millennium Stadium and 2 days before I was down there and some players were in town.
Yeah.
It's like Elton John walking through the centre of London. Can you just talk about in Wales how rugby players who wear that red shirt are treated?
Well, I think it was self-defining. You know, in the 70s, it was the one kind of sport you could feel like you could rule the world with, and so that becomes. I mean, it's always been there, the passion, but it's grown and grown, and to have that generation of players of Barry John and Gareth Edwards and JPR and all the rest of them, just to know them by one, their one name. You don't have to say the whole thing. It's always the sign, and I think it's grown in a kind of mythology, really. Yeah. Every country has its own mythological sport or sporting heroes, and I think. Football is massively popular on a city level, but when it comes to uniting the nation, the one thing that really does it, and, I am guilty as anyone of being completely one-eyed, and totally biased when it comes to that.
Do you still own a bar beside the Millennium
It
Stadium?
went bust.
Did it?
We lost about £500,000.
Was that because of the regeneration?
It was just one of those things that went wrong.
Oh dear! Everything was going really well until my last 2 questions.
Yeah.
I accused him of being
moving on.
Oh dear!
It was the peak drinking years of James, so he did try to keep it going single-handedly.
Are we saying then, this might be a little bit sensationalist, but a sad end to that era in Welsh rugby, because for the first time ever, really, we're seeing this exodus of players to go and play where the money is in France.
It is really disheartening, to see you've great. But when you're getting offered 600 grand instead of 200 grand or whatever, what you're supposed to do, and it is it's the golden generation. 3 Grand Slams, a championship, semi-final, the World Cup. It has been. I never thought I'd see that because really I had the dark days of the 80s and 90s where we did nothing. We won nothing. It was tough times. But to see all this and see them all go, but I can't blame them. And Jamie Roberts obviously got on stage with us in Australia. Know Jamie well. He played acoustic with us on You Love Us. He's always around the studio trying to nick James's guitars. And when he went to Paris, you just can't, you can't turn that down, really.
This is amazing because you went out and played dates. I'll use that loosely. There wasn't a huge amount of them. And they were in New Zealand, by the way.
I told my wife it was a lot of dates, a lot of touring.
As I said, he played 15 dates in a couple of weeks down under, and then managed to squeeze in a few Lions tests. It's lucky the whole band as keen as you. I mean, is anyone having to be dry? I'm certainly sure there's tour managers and sound that says, hey, here we go again. It's sport under the guise of music for the Manic Street Preachers.
We did drag a few along, yeah. But the tour manager, Lucky's a big Leicester Tigers fan, so he was well in it. James is just as obsessed as I am. Sean is, but he likes to be detached because he just doesn't like to get that het up about stuff. Yeah. He sees the damage it does to me, smashing things up, screaming. James losing his voice, singing Cannon Lan. When Wales beat England last year, that 33.
Oh yeah.
We had a gig sort of 10 days after. James just completely lost his voice, screaming because he was at the game and singing hymns and stuff. And I'm not sure if I can do that gig. Luckily,
10 days later, wow.
But it was really gone. But yeah, it worked out fine.
What about? I knew we'd run out of time with you, but tell me about. I love this idea, the music and sport going together and going to play in places that great sporting things have happened. That you get to go on a makeshift stage and play Manic Street Preachers music to fans. There must be quite a few arenas around the world where you've stepped on stage. Half the beauty of connecting with these fans, and the Manic Street Preachers fans are great. I'm not just saying that, not in a cheesy way, but they are. They're a different class.
They're a lovely bunch,
They're a different class. And on top of that, though, knowing what happened on that pitch or in that arena.
Yeah, we did an ice arena in Helsinki, I remember. And before we went on stage, which is a big thing, obviously, in Helsinki. They came and presented us with all the players came in and gave us ice hockey shirts. Oh. Massive, giants, some of them still padded up to show us as well, even though we went and played 10,000 screaming, brilliant Finlanders. It's magical. Freezing cold, mate. It was really cold. And then when we played in Millennium Stadium before Wales beat Italy, what was that, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when Bellamy scored the winner? And they were warming up as we were playing. I love that when you see a ball just crashing into the stanchion. It reminds me, you just want to get a pair of boots on. And we're doing "You Stole the Sun from My Heart." I had no idea that we were going to win that night. Amazing.
And then going back to Finland, when you were getting the hockey shirts, you played that show, and then a journalist said, "Where did you cut your hair?"
Yeah, that's what. Where you get your socks?
Way with that, it's just more like, what is your philosophical understanding of existentialist, and Albert Camus as the great goalkeeper philosopher.
You know what?
Etc.
You're totally right. I've been that part of the world so many times, and a wonderful breed, wonderful nature. I've got to ask you two things. I've got to ask you. I asked Suggs from Madness was in, and I said to him, okay, if Madness were a footballer, who would they be? We agreed on Claude Makelele. Makes it look really easy, but actually it's a little bit more complicated than it sounds. So that's what we went for Madness. What about for the Manic Street Preachers? Because it might not be one footballer.
I think there's a ragged, loose kind of Stan Bowles thing.
Yeah,
going on.
There's a bit of Pat Nevin.
Bit of Pat Nevin on the serious Cocteau Twin side, and the height thing with James and Sean. And
then maybe about 6-7% Mario Balotelli.
Yes, there's definitely a loose cannon. There's definitely a loose cannon.
And just finally, I think this is very important. People might be surprised when every time you open your mouth and talk about sport like this, and it's because of this horrible cliche of what a sports fan is.
Yeah,
you're a brilliant lyricist, a great musician. You've got strong political views. You're articulate. You're cross-dressing. You know what I mean? You're just
pretty much everything.
And then you have this brilliant knowledge of sport and passion for sport as well. It is underestimated, this idea. I think people do it especially with this station. Maybe I was guilty of it before joining here. That's what sports fans are like. Not true at all.
No, I don't think sport generally does cross every gender border, everything. Certainly. I met so many people over the years that we have the same opinion. Everyone's really open-minded. That comes to the fore when it's something like Olympics. And I'm watching table tennis or volleyball for 10 hours a day or something, I'm just addicted to that.
Hence why Rewind the Film took so long to be released. Right, lovely. We could talk all day. Today's Murray Meets guest. Really nice to get you in. Nicky Wire from the Manic Street Preachers. Thank you very much,
Thank
Nicky.
you.